You're listening to episode 21 of the Deliberately Transformed Woman podcast with Makaela Moore. Welcome to the Deliberately Transformed Woman podcast. You're about to discover a whole new way of viewing yourself and the world. I'm Makaela Moore, your host, intuitive leadership coach, former HR professional, mother, wife, and self-confessed nerd who loves brain science, Boston Terriers, rustic homewares, and acreage life. My mission is to help women in business to shift their identity and become fearless leaders in life and work so they can stop walking on eggshells and finally be the confident leaders they aspire to be. Unlike other coaches who focus on traditional goal setting and leadership strategies, I use my signature framework, which combines brain science, subconscious reprogramming, and intuition with leadership principles to help women to transform their life from the inside out. So if you're the type of person who wants to let go of the things holding you back and bust through fear, procrastination, and perfectionism and step into a life that is fulfilling, courageous, and intentional, then this podcast is for you. I'm so happy you're here. Hi, and thanks for joining me. I am so excited to be relaunching my podcast after a few months hiatus. I put my podcast on hold earlier this year when I could see that it just wasn't in alignment with the direction that the Midlife Awakening podcast should have been taking. I was heading down a whole different rabbit hole than where that podcast should have been going. If you listened to the previous episode here, which was the final Midlife Awakening episode, then you'll know all the reasons behind my pausing of that podcast. When I did that, it was pre-COVID, which feels like a lifetime ago. And I kind of feel like everything in life will forevermore be referenced as possibly BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID. It has just changed so much for everyone. And, I am one of the very fortunate ones living in Queensland where we've managed to maintain an almost COVID-free state, but we weren't without lockdowns and restrictions like everyone else. It just means that for us, we're now just getting on with our life under the new normal regime. And if you're in a part of the world still in lockdown, please know that us Queenslanders are definitely thinking of you and praying for you. And to those women out there who are still homeschooling, you are a freaking hero. I will never pretend that that was easy or fun. It was shit. My daughter and I both hated it, and as much as we love each other, we agree that we never want to be student and teacher for schoolwork ever again. I'll always be her teacher and mentor in life, but never for schoolwork. And if you're a teacher listening to this, you are seriously underpaid. So homeschooling mums, you have my utmost respect. I had planned on relaunching my podcast in April or May, but here I am doing it in August. One of my coaches has a saying, which right now I am living by, and that is that you are exactly where you need to be right now. You are right on time. And I've got to say, this year has been a year of pivoting for many people. And while I have pivoted my business and my messaging somewhat, it was more of a refinement than anything for me. I've been coaching a couple of amazing one-to-one clients the last few months who are all coincidentally women in senior leadership positions. And it's through coaching them that I've remembered why I got into human resources all those years ago. I've rediscovered my passion for empowering women, for inspiring and helping women to further themselves in life and the workplace. And I think these last few months have helped me to solidify who I am and all that I know and love and what I can bring to the world and what my purpose here on earth is. I've also gone through lots of transformations myself in this time. And to be honest, I am so glad I didn't relaunch my podcast earlier as planned, because it would not have been the same as what it will be now. And nor would I have relaunched with such purpose as I have now. I have got so many things that I want to talk about, and I will, as we make our way through, these weekly podcast episodes together. I want to talk all things confidence and lack thereof, procrastination, perfectionism, social anxiety, imposter syndrome, people-pleasing, glass ceilings, subconscious stories, limiting beliefs, societal norms, fear, judgment, control. My dog's snoring in the background. Fear, judgment, control, personal power, liberation, guilt, balance, relationships with ourselves and others, emotional freedom, validation, integrity, commitment, habits, identity, transformation, brain management, women in leadership, feminism, patriarchy, working mothers, mental load, self-love, self-care, self-acceptance, business, life, and basically everything in between. You name it. I want to talk about it all. There are just so many things that I'll be talking about in this podcast, but you'd better believe that every single one of them will come back to stepping into our personal power and being responsible for everything that is in and out of our life. This year has, without a doubt, been the most challenging year for most people. And I've never been more grateful to have learned all the things that I had before COVID, because I truly feel like one of the lucky ones, putting so much of that knowledge to good use for me and my family in helping us cope in what was a mostly uncontrollable situation. I've often thought over the last few months that if COVID had happened, even just 3 years ago, I would have allowed myself to become a victim of it. I would have been the sweating, crying, hysterical, angst-ridden mess huddled in the corner, full of worry, anger, regret, and anxiety. But this year has been far from that for us. Yes, our businesses, like most people's, they took a hit. But we rode that wave, and we're coming out on the other side of this. We even had to cut short a month-long road trip 5 days in and hightail it in this mad dash back to Queensland from Adelaide before the border closures. But we took all that in our stride and we just made the most of it. What I have noticed is, for the most part, that people are trying to make the most of the situation, which is great. But so many are making this situation something that it doesn't need to be. And that's purely because they are seeing things through the filters of their pre-existing subconscious beliefs, and they don't yet have the tools and the knowledge to manage their brain and their thoughts and feelings in a whole new way. And that's one of the topics I love to talk about and coach my clients through. All of the stories they tell themselves that they don't even realize aren't actually true. Now, if this is your first time listening to my podcast, I should probably introduce myself. So if you've already figured it out, I'm Makaela Moore. I'm 48 years old. I'm married to Graham, and I have an 8-year-old daughter called Sydney. We live on 5 acres just north of Brisbane with our 3 adorable Boston Terriers, one of whom you can hear in the background snoring. I am not even going to bother editing that out. And what else about us? We are 4-wheel drive and caravan enthusiasts, and we love to get away to the beach or the bush whenever we can. In addition to my coaching business, my hubby and I also own a cabinet making business, and as is typical in the trade industry, everyone else has a new kitchen except me, but I am promised one by Christmas, so my fingers are crossed for that. My background is in human resources, and I was a senior human resources advisor in Queensland Government prior to mass redundancies that occurred while I was on maternity leave after having our daughter 8 years ago. I have a business degree majoring in human resources and business management, and I have various other qualifications in training and assessment and workplace health and safety. I also taught business at a private adult education college for a while after my redundancy. And it was during that time that my hubby and I started our cabinetry business. And I went from training and recruitment and performance management and all things HR to learning how to design kitchens and measure and quote jobs, as well as bookkeeping and marketing, procurement, and everything else that goes along with running a small trade business. Then 3 years ago, my husband got very, very sick with a mystery illness that nearly saw both of his legs amputated. It was a pretty scary time. Very, very fortunately, he recovered with his legs intact. The whole situation kind of sent me into this tailspin, seeing just how vulnerable we were as a family with one income source. And it was at that stage that I then decided, that we needed to diversify, and I needed to do something for myself. And it wasn't a direct path to coaching by any means. There were many twists and turns, as any entrepreneur will tell you. But needless to say, my path led me to coaching and my newfound love of brain science and intuitive spiritual personal development. I got my coaching certification 2 years ago from a leading college in Sydney, and I've been doing one-on-one coaching since then. And while I toyed with taking my coaching online, procrastination, perfectionism, and fear stopped me in my tracks, and so I stayed small. But that's just one of the many stories that I'm going to share in future podcast episodes, because I was absolutely the queen of procrastination, and I still can be sometimes. But I really want to talk about, what causes it and how I'm overcoming it. I am not a psychologist, but I have studied a lot of psychology, both at uni and through private courses. So I have a very good understanding of human behavior and how our brain works. I am simply passionate about sharing my knowledge and, in particular, helping and inspiring other women through my own stories of insecurity, lack of confidence, fear, procrastination, limiting beliefs, and just never feeling good enough or like I belonged anywhere. So I want to share that with women so that they too can step into their own personal power, letting go of all the bullshit that's holding them back, and live a life that is fulfilling, courageous, and intentional. So this podcast will be weekly, and I'll be releasing an episode each Thursday. But I'm a realist, and like you, I'm a busy woman who doesn't have all the time in the world to listen to long podcasts. So I'm planning on making these episodes fairly short and sweet. They'll be like your little 15 to 20 minute coach in your pocket, or should I say in your ears, each week. And occasionally, particularly if it's a guest interview, they'll go a little bit longer. So, set aside 15 to 20 minutes each week just for yourself and your earbuds while the kids are at dance or at soccer, or, on your trip home from work, or even while you have that well-deserved bubble bath and some me time at the end of your busy week. Your heart, your soul, and your brain will thank you for it. It feels so good to be back behind the microphone, and I am super keen to pump out the next few episodes and get back into the swing of podcasting and inspiring. So thanks for listening today. Welcome back to my old regular listeners, and thanks for your patience and for sticking around and waiting for me. And to my new listeners, thank you for listening. Make sure you hit subscribe so that you catch all the goodness each and every week. And I'll sign off here for this one, but I'll catch you next week. Cheers. Thanks for listening. The fact that you're here means that you find value in this podcast, and if you're finding value here, then your friends and family will too. So do them and me a favour, if you will, and share this podcast with them, please. If you'd like more inspiration and to connect with other deliberate transformers, head on over to my Facebook group, Deliberately Transformed with Makaela Moore. You'll find the link in the show notes. You'll also want to hit subscribe to make sure that you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care.